This film could have been more Bostonian if it starred the Red Sox. Hey everyone, welcome to our lead up to the Oscars, and I'm Aaron.
And I'm Michelle.
I've got to introduce us. And today we're taking a look at Manchester by the Sea, and I'm just going to go ahead and say, every single year I watch all the films that get nominated for Best Picture, and there's always one movie that everybody loves, but I just can't quite get with. I think this is going to be that one this year.
Yeah.
We still have 3 more movies to watch before we are fully done with all of the films nominated for Best Picture. But this one, it is just getting amazing reviews. Everybody loves this film. And let me just say, unlike certain films of the past that I hated that got great reviews, like Tree of Life or Winter's Bone, like I said, every single year there's one film that gets nominated that I'm just like, why is that up there?
It's usually an indie film.
Typically. There weren't enough explosions in that one. How amazing would it have been if the boat blew up at the end of this whole movie? Didn't see that coming. But no, unlike with those ones, I still really want to like this one. Because there's amazing stuff in here. There's so much good in this movie. But there is one big problem that I have with it, and it's one of those like deal breaker things for me. And I'll get into that in a moment. But this film, it is all about this character Lee Chandler, who is played by Casey Affleck. And it starts off, he is a repairman, and the super at the building that he works at is like, listen man, you're good, but you're just a total jerk to people. You gotta stop being like that. Like you see him just telling a woman who is being rude to him about her shower not working. It's like, I don't give a fuck what you think, lady. And I was like, anybody who's ever worked in like customer service in their life wanted to applaud that moment. I gotta say that. Anybody who's ever worked retail, anybody like that is like, you're the hero we deserve. Also, I just want to point out, his super, only in this for one scene, is the same guy who played Bono in Fences. So this dude is in 2 films nominated for Best Picture this year. Like, if you put him in your movie instantly has a 200% chance of getting nominated for Best Picture compared to other movies. I just found that to be a really cool statistic. Like, if we go and see La La Land tonight and he's in there, I'm gonna lose my mind. But anyway, he is just this maintenance guy, but then he gets a call and they find out that his brother has died. And I will just go ahead and say, this to me is the most realistic depiction of finding out that someone you know in your family has died that I've ever seen, because it was a lot of like, yeah, the emotions are high, but at the same time they're like, we have to, like, stuff has to happen now. Like, time doesn't stop for you when you have someone pass.
Right.
You have to keep figuring stuff out. And he's like, all right, who's going to go and pick up his son? Like, that to me was such a realistic thing that, like, someone had to pick him up from school.
Right.
That's such an amazing thing.
And it's like he had to like drive out of the city and everything.
Yeah, exactly. That's
like,
the other thing. Is like
he was driving in the car while on the phone.
He's in
like,
Boston, but they're on one of the small islands out there. So it's like,
yeah, like he was like telling like the super was like, I'm gonna be like out of town for a few days. Can you please get someone to take over for me while I'm out?
Exactly.
And stuff?
It's like, this is working class people having to deal with loss. It's like, yeah, you aren't allowed to just take those days off. Stuff has to happen. You have to get stuff organized. So yeah, I love that they were able to capture that. Like this, out of all the films I've been watching this year at the Oscars, reality has been a major defining trait among all of them, because all of them I've been applying for just sounding so real. But he gets out there and then he has to go and pick up the son, and he stays with him for the night, but then they go out to his will reading and he discovers he is now going to have to be the father to his nephew now.
Like the new guardian.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah, he's been named the guardian of his nephew, and he's like, I can't fucking do that. No. Is that an option? And here's the thing: throughout this entire film, he barely talks. He is kind of shady. Whenever people go, is that Lee Chandler? Like, the Lee Chandler? Are all those stories about him true? And like, there's all this buildup, and it's always like, well, what made him the way that he is? And there are all these flashbacks all throughout this film.
Yes.
And I'll just say one thing: when the flashbacks started, they were jarring to me.
Yes.
Because like
they just like cut to him.
They just instantly cut to it, I mean, but they cut to it almost in a way that makes it seem like it's the appropriate next scene.
Yeah, exactly.
So we literally had to rewind because we were like, wait, didn't they just say his brother died? Why is he alive at this moment? Like, I don't want it to sound like we're stupid or anything, but both of us were like, wait, what?
But
Like,
eventually,
you realize that's what this movie's doing. So
Yeah.
you begin to be able to tell when's a flashback and when it's
right. But that's something you have to get
not. The
used to.
flashbacks are a bit jarring. Like,
Yeah.
they're not sloppy or anything.
No.
They're just like, oh, this is happening now. Okay, cool. But there are flashbacks all throughout this film, and for anybody who's never seen one of these like movie reactions that we do, we go full spoilers. So tune out now if you don't want anything revealed to you, because this was a jaw-dropping moment in this movie. He has a young son and 2 daughters and a wife, and like he keeps talking about like, yeah, you know, my wife, you know, that's where she lives now, but you know, my ex-wife, and like the way they talk about his ex-wife in the present makes it seem like, oh wow, they clearly had a huge falling out, like they must hate each other now.
Yeah.
And you see him in a flashback, he's having a party with some guys, they're drinking, they're doing drugs, and she's like, you assholes, it's like 2 o'clock in the morning, I got kids up here, why are you doing this? You all gotta get out here. And like, she commands that room, she gets them all out.
And it's like, oh, so that's why she divorced him.
Well, it made
What?
it made me think, it's like, okay, so he was just like an alcoholic, he was drinking too much, like, we're gonna get like the darker secret behind this where like he can't stop partying or stuff like that. That's what it's gonna be. The next flashback we get, and this is at the scene in which he is finding out he has to be the guardian of his kid. It's him walking down to the convenience store because he was drunk so he didn't want to drive. He comes walking back. The house is ablaze.
Wow.
Like, they set an actual house on fire, is how realistic this looks. And like the wife is out there screaming, my kids are in there, my kids are in there. And then you see him at the police station and he goes, I got drunk. We were doing cocaine. It was freezing in there, but we can't turn the heat on because my son has asthma, so I just threw a log onto the fire. I threw another one on there. I decided to go out for a walk to go and get more beer because we were out of beer, but I didn't want to drive because I was drunk, so I just put another log on there, and I guess I forgot to put the little grate up.
Yeah, the screen.
And it rolled out. That must be what happened. And then they go, all right, you're free to go. And he's like, wait, what? And they say, yeah, it's not illegal to forget to put a screen up. And like, you can tell he wanted to go to jail.
Yeah, it's
like he was like, no, I killed my kids.
Yeah.
Punish me. Someone has punished me. In fact, the moment he walks out there into the police station, he instantly grabs a cop's gun and is about to kill himself because he's like, he cannot bear to go to live with this on his head and not even be punished for it. Like, not even have other people like punish him for it. And it's like, okay, we've seen a lot of films in which there's like, oh, what dark secret does this guy have? And it's like, that was it? Oh, a girl didn't like you that you really liked. Oh, boo-hoo. You know, something like that. Mm-hmm. This, holy crap. This one makes you sit there and go, yeah, I probably would have tried to kill myself.
Yeah.
There. Yep, that is something that you cannot live with. That's a rough deal, man. So I gotta say that, like, when you find out what got into that point, it is heartbreaking. It is punishing. And now he has to deal with the idea of having another kid.
Yeah.
Even if it's just for a year, because the kid is 17 years old. So it's like, well, he's like 16, 17.
Yeah,
so
somewhere
like,
around there.
Yeah, you would only really have to keep him around for like 2 more years. Because then after that, the kid is free to go and do whatever he wants. He's no longer considered the legal guardian at that point. And he's just trying to deal with all of this. And the kid's like, well, you can move back here, right? And he's like, I can't move back here. And we all know it's because this is where he killed his kids. He doesn't want to be here anymore. And he's like, I will get you a place out in Boston. I will find a new place in Boston with like 2 rooms so you can stay out there. And he's just like, I'm not leaving. I got my friends here. I got my school here. I'm in a band here. I have 2 girlfriends here. We'll get into that in a second. I'm on the hockey team here. I'm not leaving here. So it becomes this huge butting of heads of Lee Chandler cannot stay here. His nephew refuses to leave. So what's going to happen? And it's just a film about these guys having to deal with the situation that they have. And as I pointed out earlier, one of the great things about this film is that it really does capture a realistic voice. But that also is kind of a negative to it.
Yeah.
And we're going to go over more of the details with the characters and such in a moment. but I'm just going to go ahead and state like what my problem is with this film. Is that there's so many films out there where they're just kind of like, well, you know, sometimes there isn't really a resolution. Sometimes it's just like life. That's just how it is. And it's like, yeah, I go to the movies for stories. You can quit all this real life BS stuff now. I'm not saying I want it all to resolve and everyone to be happy forever or everything. But there is such a small conclusion. There is a conclusion.
Yes.
There is a resolution. I will say this. I've seen other films where just nothing happens at the end, and that's total BS. This film has such a... and this film does have a conclusion. It does have things get resolved. But it's so small. It's like... The way that I can describe this film is that we all want to see those movies where someone gets broken down, they're laying there on the floor, they can't move, but eventually they pick themselves up and start walking away again. This is a film where someone gets beaten down, they're laying there on the ground, and people are like, come on man, you can do it, you can get back up. Come on man, you can do it. And then at the very end of the movie,
Meh.
like yeah, it's like, all right, he did it, all right guys. Because yeah, it's like, this film at the end gives you a very tiny like, there's hope that in a couple years things might get better. But like, oh, okay, but that was just kind of like a small part of my problem with it. And like I said, I'm not saying you need a big happy resolution,
Right.
but I needed to kind of feel like there was more of a resolution.
Yeah.
But also my biggest problem with this is the pacing. And that to me is a major like red flag when I go into movies. Because honestly, there's so many good things in here.
Yes.
There's great characters, amazing acting. There's fantastic moments and exchanges between characters. It's also really funny. Like,
yes.
I was laughing hysterically in here. Like, there is a moment in here, it's the most Bostonian thing I have ever seen in my life, in which Lee is trying to convince his nephew to move to Boston with him. And he was like, listen, you can get back here in 45 minutes. And they're like, what, are you out of your mind? You can't get back here in 45 minutes in a spaceship. And they just keep going back and forth. They're like, no, you just take this road here, and you know, you take that road, and you take this road, and then he just goes, fine. Just gets up and walks away. I was like, that to me was the most New England-y thing I've ever seen. Guys getting into a screaming argument about directions, and in the middle of the argument, one of them just goes, out. I love that. I laughed hysterically at that moment. So yeah, there's so many amazing things in here, but there came a moment, and it's not like I was checking my watch, but I was aware of what the time was, and I was aware of how long this movie was. It got to a point in which I was like, we've only got about half an hour left in this movie, and we haven't really started to progress that much. And then there comes a moment in which there's like 15 or 20 minutes left in the movie, and then they introduce the kid's mom, who has been out of the picture this whole time, and they hinted at the mom this whole time. It's like, well, how come I can't go and live with my mom? It's like, nobody knows where your mom is. Like, well, I emailed her once 3 years ago. I could probably find her. I was like, that's pretty much all we get about the mom up until then. With like 15, 20 minutes left in the film, the mom emails him back again, says, I'm now living with a guy and married again. Do you want to come and have dinner? They go and they have dinner with surprise cameo, Matthew Broderick. That was the most jarring thing about this whole film. It's like, what are you doing here? But yeah, they go and meet the mom, and I was like, this really feels like it should have been introduced like 30 minutes earlier into this film. Like, you're introducing a whole new plot line into this film with like 15, 20 minutes left to go. And like, there's another plot line in here, and it's immediately resolved too. It's immediately like, yeah, you can't come and stay with us. That was it. End of discussion. I was like, oh, that could have been a cool thing to kind of stretch out for a while, but you didn't. All right. And then there's been like this thing of his dad, the nephew's dad who owned the boat, his nephew's dad who died, he had a boat. And the nephew does not want to get rid of this boat, but Lee is like, I can't afford to keep a boat around. You don't have the money to keep the boat around. And like, they keep going back to this storyline all throughout. And I was like, okay, how's that going to get resolved? With like 10 minutes left in the movie, Lee just goes into his dad's office, sees a bunch of old guns in there, and goes, hey, do you know how much these could sell for? Well, if we just sell these and just use them to pay for a motor for the boat. And I was like, This is literally the first time we have seen these guns. Like, you guys know me, I complain a lot about Deus Ex Machinas, and it's like, yeah, you guys did not have a resolution to the storyline. You guys looked at the time and went, oh, we got 10 minutes to finish this movie. Those.
And it's like, but like, I thought, like, I was thinking back to the flashback where he grabs the police officer's gun and tries to, like, shoot himself in the head. So I thought, when he was looking at those guns, I thought, oh my god, is he gonna try and kill himself again?
That didn't even cross my mind, but oh yeah.
Yeah, I thought that was what was gonna happen. I was like, oh my god, are you seriously gonna do this again?
That would have been a resolution to it. That would have been a big resolution. That would have been the final resolution. Wow. Yeah, I didn't even think about that, but I can totally see how you would think that. But yeah, like that just comes in out of nowhere. It's like, boat problem fixed. And at the funeral, there is an amazing moment in which his ex-wife, who he has not spoken to since any of this stuff happened, she calls up, says, I found out that your brother died. I know it's going to be weird, but can I come to the funeral? Oh, by the way, I'm married again and I'm pregnant right now. So it's like, that is another thing that he now has to deal with. It's like, oh god, I have to see the woman that I love like this. And they see each other and it's kind of awkward for a moment, but then nothing really happens after that. Then, like half an hour later into the movie, again, it was kind of like they checked their watch and was like, oh yeah, we gotta give a resolution to that storyline. He just bumps into her again randomly on the street. And like the two of them just break down crying, and she's like, just please move back. Like, could we at least just have lunch again? Like, I still have feelings for you. I still love you. I know that we can't be together again, but I just want to be around you again. And he's just like crying because he knows he can't do it. And that is an amazing moment. That moment is fantastic. But again, you meet her at the funeral. You could have like had some back and forth, like another phone call here, like a text message when you're just kind of staring. It's like, oh, should I do something like this? And then eventually you agree to meet, and then you have that conversation at the meeting. Instead, it was like at the funeral, nothing. Oh, we gotta resolve this. Randomly bumps into her on the streets, and I was like, yeah, it's an amazing moment, but it just wasn't set up well. It just nothing led into it. And yeah, that is my problem with this film. I think the pacing has major problems with this movie. Because, and one of those instances where like I could actually point to things in like the first 2/3 of this movie and go, there's things you can take out, and then pack it onto the back third.
Right.
Yeah, that's my big problem with this film. And it pains me to say that I have a problem with this film because the good stuff in here is amazing. All the performances are great. The humor is fantastic. My only other real problem, I guess, is the nephew himself, because I don't feel like he goes through enough of a change.
Yeah, you mentioned that.
I don't feel he goes through, like, really any change. Like, I kept waiting throughout this entire film to go, when's the moment you break down? Because you were handling your dad's death way too well.
Like, he did have a panic attack at one point.
But that's the thing. Like, I thought there was a great moment in which he goes to see his dad in the morgue, and, like, he's, like, he doesn't know if he wants to go, and he's like, fine, we'll do it. And then walks in there, takes 2 steps in, sees his dad, and goes, all right, and then immediately turns and walks out again. Which again, good dark humor in that moment, but I was like, okay, that shows how he's feeling about this. But then that night, he's sleeping with one of his girlfriends. Then like, he's more obsessed with like staying there in town than like with what's happened to his dad. But then there does come a moment in which he does have a panic attack. And that, again, great scene. It's a moment in which he's trying to put food in the freezer, and because the ground is so cold up there, they can't bury his dad until spring. So for like 3 months, his dad is going to be locked in a freezer. And he keeps saying, I don't want my dad locked in a freezer somewhere. I want him to go ahead and be buried. And there's a moment he's trying to just jam all this food into the freezer. And yeah, he has a panic attack. And his Uncle Lee doesn't know what to do with this. He doesn't know how to help him with this. But I think that they captured very well what it's like for someone who doesn't know how to help someone with a panic attack, trying to help them with a panic attack. Because he's like, what do you want? Are you sad about this? What? Do you not want the food in the freezer? What? Do you want me to cook you something? He's like, just trying to help him with this. He doesn't know what's going on. It's like, they captured that incredibly well, I thought. And yeah, his son breaks down and he's crying. He just goes, I don't like him in the freezer. And again, great acting in that moment. And then Lee's just like, I'm just gonna sit here with you, man. Which is like, yeah, that's sometimes all you can do for someone having a panic attack. And I thought that was a great bonding moment between them. However, after that moment, we never get like any kind of a sense of like he's still dealing with this. Like the son never reflects back on his dad. Like there is nothing after that. And I was like, this is the moment I was waiting for. This is the moment in which that like brave front he's been putting up throughout this entire film, it finally starts to break and we finally see what's underneath. And then after that, we can start dealing with it. But again, it's one of those things where it's like, hey man, sometimes in real life, you don't get a resolution like that. And I was like, fuck you, we want that resolution. Because it was one of those times in which I was just like, now is the moment when we start to see what his character's going through. We start to see that progression. No, he has that breakdown. Then after that, he's just back to being like, so yeah, can you take me by my second girlfriend's place tonight? And it's like, which I gotta say, I actually really liked his second girlfriend's mom. Because her mom was just like, I know you're trying to fuck up there. I know that's what you're doing up there, and I can't stop you. So I'm just going to be sitting down here making awkward conversation with your Uncle Lee. Okay. But yeah, it's like, that was the moment which I was waiting for. It's like, okay, now we're gonna get some stuff. He's going to go through like a big change, and like he's going to go through an arc. No, that was it. I was like, man, fuck you and your realistic climaxes.
I don't know if it's like a genetic thing, because like, you know, the nephew and the uncle are like kind of like that.
I thought you were going to talk about because like his dad died of like a heart condition.
Yeah, well, the heart condition.
And when he starts having a panic attack, he's grabbing his heart, and I was like, oh my god, he's got the same thing that his dad has.
Yeah, like I thought that was what was going to happen, but no, it's just a regular panic attack. So I thought like maybe I was talking about like hiding their emotion thing was like something that the guys do in the family.
That's just men in Boston. Nothing against people in Boston, by the way. But I know people in New England who I was just like I said, when he started having the panic attack, you can tell that his Uncle Lee doesn't really know like how to deal with that. I'm like, yeah, because I actually work with a guy right now who he's kind of from that area, and he's been having kind of like panic attacks recently, and like he doesn't know what they are. He's like, yeah, I think I'm having a heart attack, but it's like every single day I'm like, it's stress, dude. It's like, it's a panic attack. And there's no shame in that. It's no problem at all. I mean, I don't want to say it's no problem. I mean, like, there's nothing to be ashamed of with that. That's something very natural to deal with. But you can tell there are certain people who grow up in places where it's like, that's not a thing. It doesn't exist. Nobody talks about it. Don't even deal with it. And it's like, that's why I feel like it was. Like, these are just guys who grew up in an area where it's like, yeah, don't show your emotions. Yeah, just don't do that. It's like, I don't think that was a genetic thing. I think that was just like, that's the society that they were raised in.
Yeah, it's perfectly fine for them to like curse and stuff.
That's, again, sometimes that's the way that people hide emotion. We're getting into really deep shit on this one. But yeah, I like so much stuff about this. And it's like, again, I got to go back in here just talking about how funny this movie is. Mm-hmm. It's amazing that they can have great comedy in the midst of such drama, because when this kid is having the panic attack and he's there on his bed like crying, like, no, I don't want to see anything. Lee just kicks the door down and comes in. And it's like, what's going on? Is everything okay? You want to talk about this? I'm like, in a way, that's kind of the best uncle ever. He's like, nope, I'm going to be by my nephew's side no matter what. Because, yeah, and that also, I think, was a great moment that kind of spoke to Lee himself, because, like, I don't want to raise this kid at all because it's too much torture on me. But the moment that his nephew is in pain, he's just like, he goes into dad mode again. Which I thought that was great.
Yeah, it's like there was a moment where he was starting to think, maybe I can like raise this kid on my own. Maybe I am starting to get better. Maybe I can forget all about what happened and move on with my life. But then
he meets up with his ex-wife again, and I was like, again, that's the best scene in the whole film.
Yeah.
That's one of the scenes in which, like, if you didn't cry at the panic attack scene, you're crying this one. If they didn't get you in the rinse, what's the old expression? If they didn't get you in the rinse, they get you in the dry. Yeah, that's what this was.
Like, there was also, like, a scene where, like, he was, like, cooking and he, like, burnt
that scene.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, he was, like, making spaghetti or something, and he was, like, putting the sauce on the stove, and he fell asleep, and he burnt the sauce, and that's when he kind of, like, got this flash. He realized, oh no, I'm gonna burn the house down again. I can't do this. I can't risk my nephew's life the way I risked my children's
He
life.
realized he's just too broken.
Yeah.
Yeah, but like I said, at the end of this film, he works out a way for him to stay with this friend of the family, which throughout this entire film, I kept trying to figure out who this guy was. Like, I kept trying to figure out, is he related to you? Like, what is he? Like, I couldn't figure that out, so we never got an answer on that. But yeah, he works out that this friend of the family is going to adopt him for the next year. Then he's on his own, but he's got money from his dad in the will, so it's like he'll be okay for at least a couple of years. And at 18, he can start working on his dad's boat, and he can start renting the boat out, so he does have some kind of a business going for him. But, like I said, this film was a guy who got broken down, was laying there on the floor, and at the end of the film, he just goes, because he says, yeah, and I found a new place in Boston. It's got 2 rooms, so if you ever want to come over, you can. And it was like, that showed he's willing to try, which is more than he was willing to do at the beginning of this film. So it's like, he had progress. It was just like, I wanted a little bit more resolution, and I wanted the back third of this film to not be so crammed and feel so like they were just trying to wrap things up. That's how the back, like, not even third, like back quarter of this, it felt like they were just trying to wrap things up, you know. Because, yeah, there were so many things I was like, this should have been at the halftime, and we're in the final quarter right now. It's like, yeah, man, you just jammed too much into the back end of this, and the pacing is such a big thing for me in films. So I like so much about this film, but I can't say that I loved it.
Right, like, I'm wondering if there's like a director's cut where they like included the scenes that you wanted
This
to
is
see.
an indie film. There's no such thing as a director's cut.
Oh yeah, I keep forgetting.
Indie films are like, I go as long as I want, goddammit. Hell, this is a Casey Affleck film. That dude does whatever he wants and doesn't care. But yeah, alright, there's so much that I liked about it in here. So let me know in the comments down below what you guys thought. Also, if you want to see the rest of our Oscar lead-up reviews, then make sure that you click that subscribe button. We'll be back in probably a couple of hours because I'm doing 7 of these this weekend. So come back later, guys. Bye.
Bye.